Hello, this is Sophie Lawson from sophielawson.com, and this is episode 213 of the So Free Art podcast, which is a little podcast that I do about the art and things, and this one is all about the art, because today we're going to be talking about going back to art class. So I think this is going to be quite exciting. I'm quite excited for this one. I think it'd be quite fun, because what I'm going to do is I've broken it down into like sort of three main sections really. One is I'm going to talk about my previous experiences of art class and why I stopped going. Then I'm going to look at emptying my bag out and talk about the things I took. Then I've also recorded 2 clips already. One is just before I went into the art class, talking about how I was feeling, because it was actually quite scary. And then I've got another clip right after I come out the session, talking about how it went and stuff, and it's quite amazing. And then I come back, talk about some of my drawings, and then I'll finish it off. So that's going to be, I think it's going to be cool. So I hope you enjoy this one. And lilDENNiS, the co-host, is with us, and he's going to get us right into it. Boing! So this is, the first thing is quite, well actually, we haven't had any kissy kisses for ages. Yeah, lilDENNiS hasn't been on the podcast for a while, because we've been out and about a lot. So it is kind of nice to be back inside again. And the thing, it's a bit like that with the art class as well. So the first thing is, a couple of weeks ago I asked myself, what do I want? And one of the things that come up was I want to get back into my art. But I didn't know how to do it. Because there's so many things I want to do, like procreate, creating characters. I also want to, there's a book, I got a book for my birthday about, it's called The Artist's Way or something, like a spiritual book. So I want to do that. I've got another book I'm halfway through, Art Fundamentals, Theory and Practice. So I got all these things, and then what happened was, out of the blue, I got an email inviting me back to the art class. So I thought, oh, this is brilliant, because what happened was, I in 2014 I started going to an art class. I feel like I got a burp coming up. They say that is negative energy, releasing energy. But what happened was, in 2014, because I realised that I really needed to go to art class, but I was so scared because of social anxiety and stuff, so I put it off for a bit, and then finally I went, and it was so amazing. And then about a year later, 2015, I actually left that art class and went to a life drawing class. So life drawing is, for me, the best thing ever, because you got a nude model in front of you, and I love drawing the figure. So like I just find it amazing. And so what happened was, I went to life drawing for a couple of years, and then I got a different job, and it clashed with the art class, so I actually had to stop. Now that was 4 years ago. It turns out the last 2 years they didn't go because of all the fake virus stuff. So they actually didn't have the class for 2 years. They've just started it back up. And what happened was, because when I left, I put myself back on the list. So I just come up just in time. So it was a nice sort of little synchronicity. And that's one of the things is there's been a bunch of synchronicities this week. So the first one was, it was Friday last week, I got the email, and I said, yes, I'd love to come back, please. I then thought to myself, I need to get an art bag, because what I do is, I like to have dedicated bags for each thing. So I've actually got 4 pencil cases. One is filled with, like if I'm going out, well, I've got a glass case, and if I go out, say, sketching outside, so I got that with all my stuff, and then I've got another one by my desk, which if I'm sketching in the front room, it's just got a few pencils in it. I've got one by my desk, my art desk, which is my main one, full of all my art tools, and then I've got another one which is dedicated for art class. So what it means is I don't have to like scramble around for my art tools. So if I'm going to art class, I've already got it all packaged up there, and then when art class is finished, I don't have to get all the pencils out and put them on my desk or something. I find it a very good way of like focusing. But I also wanted an art bag, because since I left art class, one of my bags broke, so I didn't have a bag. So I went in a second-hand shop, and I managed to find this really cool bag. It's a perfect bag. It is a little rucksack, but I also thought I want to get myself a sketchbook, because normally I use the rough sketchbook type paper, and I thought for this time I'd like to try using a sketchbook with smooth paper, very much like printer paper, because I just thought it'd be quite nice to see the difference. So I went into the second-hand shop, and in the window was this sketchbook, which is perfect. It was 99p. So I managed to find my art supplies, because I thought, I won't be able to find one or something. So, well, here we go. Look, why did I leave art class? Because I got my day job. I got a different day job. So that was that. And it was really sad, actually, because I love art class, and it's amazing how much I missed it. But what also happens is, I would say after about 6 months or something, you sort of get used to it not being there, which is a shame. But I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. Is what I found with art classes, it's a good way of sort of focusing you, get you back in the rhythm of drawing. So before we get into my experiences of the art class, I thought I'd empty my art bag. So the first thing I got a wallet. So what I do is, in that I put my money for the art class. So again, I don't have to worry about getting my wallet out of my main bag. I've got it already here. I've got my sketchbook, which is, I use A4 because it's quite big, but it's not massive. So I can fit it in my bag. So I got one with smooth paper. I got another one which has got the rough paper. Now they're both the same size, but they both give completely different textures. So sometimes I do. What I like about the rough paper is it's really nice for blending, and I like the texture you get. The reason I wanted the smooth one was because I want to experiment a lot more with different tools this time. So like inking, for instance, marker pens, brush pens, that's much better on smooth paper. So I thought, well, for this, because I want to start experimenting with new art supplies really. So what else have we got? I've got a little wallet full of little brush pens. Well, they're watercolour dual tip pens. So what you can do with these is you like scribble on it, very much like a sort of Copic marker, and then you can add water to it. I've never added water to these though, but I like the way they look just on their own. This is quite cool. I got my bottle of water, because you've always got to have a bottle of water. I got a little spare bag, so if I'm doing watercolours and stuff gets wet, I've got like a bag to protect everything else. I got my little Winsor Newton watercolour set. Again, I want to do more sort of like watercolours and stuff this time, because the previous years when I was doing art class, I would say 90% of the time I was doing pencils, which is cool, but sometimes you fancy something a bit different. But before, I didn't have all my tools with me. I've also got some oil pastels, so again I play around with those, and I also got some soft pastels. The only thing with these is they're really messy, so I put them in another bag inside. So these are more like sort of chalks really. So I personally, I like the effect of the soft pastels, but I prefer using the waxy ones just because I find I have a bit more control with those ones. But I like the effect of the soft ones. It's quite cool. I got a jam jar, so I can put water in it if I'm doing any watercolours. I think that's it. Well, that's it, yeah. So that was it for that. I've then got my pencil case. So what have I got in here? I got the burps. What I got is I got my mono eraser pen, Tombow mono eraser pen. This is my ultimate art tool for me. I love it. I've got a little Stanley knife, so I can get a nice sharp tip on my eraser. I got some tortillions, which are for blending. I got some used ones, some dirty ones, and some brand new ones. So like the dirty ones are good for doing backgrounds and things. I've also got a load of brush pens. Now these are beautiful brush pens. The effect you get on these is amazing. And I think they're only £1 in the there's a shop called The Works. So these really cheap brush pens are absolutely beautiful. So if you're watching you can watch this as a video if you want, and I'll show you some of the like the strokes you can get. But I think it's worth looking into really cheap art supplies. This was something somebody bought me for Christmas. Somebody at work bought me these for Christmas, and I must admit at first I thought, a bunch of cheap art tools. I wasn't being horrible. It's just not up to my standards, as my mum says. Me and my mum got a little joke where we say we pretend it's not up to my standards, but I thought, well, I'll try it because I'll try everything, and lo and behold, they're amazing. So I thought that was quite interesting. I've also got a little brush, so if I'm doing any pencils, I've got like erasers, I can rub it off my desk. I've also got some mechanical pencils. Now what I did for this this is what I always do. It's a little system I've got, which I had before, and it's beautiful, because when I'm drawing, I like to go between 2H, 2B and 4B. So what I do is I got 3, mechanical pencils, A5, 0.5, and what I've done is I've colour coded it, and I've gone from light to dark, so the actual pen, the pencil, the actual case that the leads are in is actually red. One is red, one is blue, and one is black. So what I do is the red one is the lightest one, the blue one is the middle, and the black one is the darkest. So what I can do is if I'm drawing, I don't have to be if I'm doing like something with a 2H and I think, I want to go darker here, I don't have to think, right, which one's the 2, which one's the 4B. I can just look at it, colour coded it, so I can. It's brilliant, it is. So I feel like colour coding your art tools is a really good way of doing things. I've also got a couple spare mechanical pencils, because you never know when something might break. I've got some new tortillions. I got me trusty. I love this pencil. It's a Koh-i-Noor hard muff clutch pencil. I've actually done a video of this one. It's beautiful. It creates really sexy lines. I find it really good for gesture drawing. I got me Stratler Mars pencil as well. My clutch pencil. I've got this thing here which I haven't really used before, but it's called a Pentel Stylus Pen. Now it looks like a really boring basic pen, but when I've played around with it, it's like a cross between a felt tip, a fine liner, a really thick fine liner, and a sort of a brush pen. So it's actually quite unique, and I feel like this would be really good for doing inking. But I haven't played around with it properly, so I want to do some experimenting with that. I've also got a bunch of empty leads, like spare leads. Like I say, I'd stick to 2H, 2B and 4B. I got some spare erasers for my mono eraser. I got my favouriteest eraser of all, the Tombow mono eraser. This little thing is brilliant. This one removes everything, like pencils, and it never sort of ruins the paper or nothing. So I feel like that's, and I see a lot of Japanese artists using that one, like manga artists. I've got a 0.5 fine liner, and I've also got a blue Bic gel pen. Because again, experimenting. There was somebody at art class who actually they did a load of life drawings, the quick ones, with Bic, with just a basic ballpoint pen. It's brilliant. When I saw it, it actually made me want to try it. But I thought, God, it might be quite a bit sort of scary. That's one of the things with art class. It forces you. Well, it doesn't force you, but it's a good opportunity to sort of put yourself out your comfort zone. Because the thing is, you can play around. If it doesn't work, you just turn the page and do it again. And then I've got a load of my tortillions. So that's all my art supplies. It's quite, like I said, and all I've got to do is, I've got all those art supplies, because that pencil case is me art class pencil case. All I've got to do is, that stays in my bag. So I don't have to worry about what tools am I taking. I know what I've got. It's quite cool. And then there's one other little thing, which is in Aldi, which is like a supermarket. You can actually buy these curry sauces. Like, what it is it's called a specially selected 2-step sauce. Now what it is, what I love about this is, it's basically a jar, like it's a long tool, basically like a jam jar. But what's brilliant about it is, because it's a 2-step sauce, what happens is when you buy it, you got your sauce in the jar, and you've got a little plastic lid on the top which has like powder in it, so you can mix the powder in to get a nice spicy flavour. But the thing is, this works, this is brilliant. I was thought to myself, this is going to be amazing for, say I go outside doing some like watercolours outside, which I did a lot a couple of years ago down Saltram. I love doing that. This is brilliant. You can fill the jar up with water, and then your little plastic, you've got like a little plastic, what do you call it? Well, it's like a little, to me it looks like a little mixing palette for painting. So the good thing about that is it keeps it all together. So it's almost like you're getting a container for your water and a little mixing palette. So I thought that was quite cool. I just wanted to sort of say about that. I think that's it for this. So what are we doing now? Well, what I've got now, I'm going to play some clips now. The first one is what I was feeling like just as I was about to go into the art class. I think it was about 20 minutes before the art class. And then I got another clip after that, which is when I come out. So this is like my raw emotions, what I was feeling. So I'm getting can't talk properly. Yeah, my mouth's a bit dry as well. I want to drink, but I'm a little bit nervous. If I have a drink, I might pee myself, because I'm a little bit, well, I'm getting closer to the art class now. I think we've got about 30 minutes, so I'm going to sit down in a minute, have an apple, but I'm quite nervous. It's more social anxiety. Yeah, it's more scared of people, really. Because I know my art skills ain't going to be the best, because I haven't done much drawing for the past couple of years. But there's nothing I can do about that, apart from just draw more. So I'm super excited, because it's this opportunity to sort of, I've missed live drawing. Live drawing is so brilliant. So I'm really excited for the actual drawing thing. It's just more the people that I'm a bit nervous about, because I can feel my whole body is getting a bit, there's like a sort of a general uneasiness and a little bit hot. What am I scared of though? I'm scared, I've got a runny nose as well. I do seem to have a runny nose a lot. I actually went to the doctors about it once. They said you might need an operation or something. But I think what it is I've noticed when I get anxious, I get a more runny nose. So to me that says it's actually an anxiety thing. Because when I'm not anxious, I ain't got a runny nose. So that's something I've noticed. Because what happens is I've started noticing a lot of things, kind of like an awareness sort of thing. So what am I scared of? I'm scared of talking. I get a bit anxious around people for some reason. It is one of the things I've got to sort out, and I am going to. So I'm sitting down here for a minute, have my little apple. So what I do is, what I'm going to do is, after today I'll write about it, process my emotions and stuff, and see what happens. So on the one hand, I'm super excited to be drawing again and getting back into life drawing. I'm also excited to meet everyone, because it's been about 4 years and it's just going to be nice to see what everyone's been up to. So this is a perfect thing of what's happening at the moment is I'm focusing on the negative. I should be focused on the positive. The positive is, I'm interested in what everyone's been up to. I cannot wait to see what we're going to be drawing. There's an airplane in the sky somewhere. Into the clouds. So yes, that's it really. Lots of anxiety, but it's a good thing, I suppose, because even though it feels a bit unpleasant, it won't be like this forever, and it will be if I don't face it. So it's a good thing that I'm at least trying. I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, because when I tried to think about what I was scared of, I couldn't really come up with anything, which says to me I'm actually scared of nothing. It's that thing again. I'm scared of an imaginary something. It's almost like part of me just wants to be scared. That's what it's like. It's like part of me is so used to being scared, it just defaults to being scared, even when there's nothing to be scared of. How mad is that? I suppose I am a little bit afraid that maybe I'll say something and make a fool of myself or something. But again, if I sit down and think about all that, I end up at a place where I'm like, well, it doesn't matter anyway. So it's a bit weird. But yeah, I just thought there's nothing to be afraid of. Fear is an illusion. I know that, and yet it still scares me. Which is I can't quite work that out. It's like a paradox to me, that is, that you can know that there's nothing to be afraid of, and yet you're still afraid of something. So when I say I'm afraid of people, that to me says I've got some deep unresolved issue from my past related to people, and every time I do something around people, I get anxious, because I'm so subconsciously something is scared of something. I guess what's happened is I can't quite remember what I'm scared of until I heal it. I'll probably be like this, so I've got to heal it. As Laura says from the Ascend podcast, you got to feel it and heal it. Feeling and healing. You heal it by feeling it. And that is that. So I enjoyed that. Oh, if you could see, if you're watching on the video, you can see it looks quite beautiful actually. The sky looks quite beautiful tonight, and I enjoyed that. It was so fun. The first thing I noticed was it's just amazing to get back into drawing again. I've forgotten how sort of freeing it is, because when you're doing life drawing, you're not thinking about nothing. It's like a form of meditation. Really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed it. So what would I say about that then? I was about that then. Well, the first thing I noticed was the amount of people who said that they hadn't done any drawing for a couple of years. Because what's happened was the art class hadn't been on for 2 years because of all the virus things and that. And most of them said they haven't been doing any art for a couple of years. What it makes me realise is, I noticed this as well. The beautiful thing about an art class is it gets you focused, because you go to it each week. Like when that gets taken away, it's much harder to. Well, for me personally, I find it quite hard to get myself focused, I suppose. So there's loads of nice things about this. There was about 50% of the people were the same as the people I remembered when I was last there, like 4 years ago. Everyone said hello. I spoke to a couple of new people. Bob. There's a bloke called Bob. A bloke called Mark. But the thing was, everyone's drawings was really cool. And we had a male model as well, which was interesting. Because it's... Well, when I've done my life drawing before, I would say I've done probably done about 40 or 50 life drawing sessions. I don't know. But they've always been females. I can remember 2 blokes. There was a bloke who dressed up as a Viking or something, which was quite fun. And we also had this other bloke who was in like a wheelchair. That was an interesting one as well. But today we had a bloke, and what we did was we done 3 quick sketches. We had like 5 minutes, or 3 to 5 minutes, little quick sketches, and then we did one big. It was about an hour and a half, I think, the other one, the big one. But the little ones, I used brush pens. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'll put my drawings in it. But the brush pens were cool. Because what I like about doing that is you can't like correct anything. So once you've committed, you're into it. And I find it quite freeing in a strange way. Because you just go for it, and that going for it frees you up. I enjoyed that. And he had this pole as well. So what he did was he was posing with a big massive pole. I'm getting near the busy road now. But he was posing with this pose, and it was creating these cool shapes, because you had the line of his pole with with all these like curvy shapes of his body. But also I enjoyed it, because I thought I wouldn't enjoy drawing a male as much as the females, but I found it fascinating. He seemed really nice as well. He was talking to everyone, so he was cool. And then that was the first lot, and then the pose at the end, I used my pencils. And what happened on that one was he was sitting on his little chair, and again, normally whenever I'm doing these things, very often I'm looking at the model, because at the old art class, the model was sort of sat behind a wall, or sat against a wall. So, but this time I had his back, and I enjoyed it. And what surprised me was, all we had was the back of his head. But what surprised me was how people could capture his personality and his character in the back of his head. Without any facial features, you can still capture his essence, which I like that. So the thing is, for me, is I'm so glad that I went for it. There's loads of graffiti down here. I might stay in here because it's hopefully it's not as noisy. I'm not sure. So what I'll do is I'll finish this podcast off when I get home, but I'll actually do it like tomorrow or something. I'm not sure. Might do it when I get in, just only because it's so noisy. So the main thing is, I'm so glad that I went for it. Face me fear. There was nothing to fear, which is something I've learned before. The mind just messes you up. Everyone was really nice to me. I enjoyed it so much. The main thing for me was how it's just good to be drawing again. So as you can see, it was very strange how right before the session, super nervous. Right after the session, super sort of hyped up and stuff. And what I will say is I feel like the first one is always the hardest one, because you're a little bit apprehensive about because you're going into the unknown really. So the next one should hopefully be a lot easier. But I just thought, how weird is it how the mind sort of like tries to mess you up? Because basically there was a point there where I thought to myself, shall I just go home? Like before the session, because it was very scary. But what happened was that the more I thought about it, the more I realised I couldn't even work out why I was getting scared, which is weird. And the thing is as well, once you do it, you realise there was nothing to be scared about. So even if you could find reasons, for me it's like lies. It is like lies. So the good thing now is I got my little membership card, which I think is brilliant. And I'm number 47. But this art class, it was actually founded in 1865, if you can believe that. So this art class has been going for ages, and that's why the waiting list is massive. The waiting list is huge. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go quickly through me through my sketchbook and just talk about my drawings. And well, the first thing is what I always do is when I first get there, I always get there a little bit early. There's quite a lot of people there though already. In total, I would say there's about 20 people there, and 10 of them, well not 10, about half of them I knew from previous years, and then there's like about 10 new people as well. So it's quite cool actually, because it was like you sort of, when I went in there, you see all these familiar faces. And what actually happened was when I got there, I was a little bit nervous and scared. I actually went out to the front door of the church, because the art class is now in a church. And what happened was I tried to open the door and it wouldn't open. So I thought, here we go. Just as I was thinking, right, where do I go? A car pulls up, and out comes one of the artists who I knew from last time. So she walked with me around the back. So, and then as I went in, I saw like Dell, another artist. It's cool it was, and like I was thinking, I was a bit scared, but I was sort of thinking, this is brilliant. And in a weird way, it felt like I had never left, which was quite strange. So what I do is, the first thing when I get there is I like to just get a page on my sketchbook and mess about, like just throw some lines down, not really doing anything, just scribbling really. So I was like playing around with all my things, and I was also testing out the paper as well for the first time. So what we do on this art class is basically you have, this was interesting as well. Yeah, so you got a model, like a nude model, everyone sits around, and then you have, what they did this time was you had 3 quick sketches, which were like 3 to 5 minutes longs, and then you had the long one, which is about an hour to an hour and a half. So what I actually really like the quick ones, because the poses are always more exciting, because obviously the artist, the model can't stand there too long in dynamic poses. In actual fact, the model was in such a sort of exciting pose at one point that you could see the sweat dripping down their body, because they were obviously like really holding the thing. And so because I thought to myself, I wish we could have like a long dynamic pose like that. And then you think, that wouldn't be fair on the model. So it was quite interesting. But we had a male model. So normally we have female models, and I love the female form. But what I found interesting was I really enjoyed sort of studying the male form as well, because it's the same but different, which is quite cool. But this what they did was the first 3 poses, the model he had a pole, like a big long pole. So he was like posing with, on one of them he had he's almost doing like a sort of as if he's about to go yeah sort of thing with this pole. So that was cool. And then the other thing was he was turning around as well. So one of the poses straight on, one of the poses was from behind, and then the other one was like more sideways. So you had a nice sort of collection of angles and things. And the other thing that was cool was, in the old art class, everyone had tables. This time, I was actually sat on a chair with no table, and one of the artists was sitting on the floor. So this is cool now, because what you can do is, you could actually sit on the floor, because before you couldn't really, because of all the tables. So now you can sit on the floor and get some even cooler angles if you want. So what I did for the first one was, this was a 3-minute pose, short pose. What I did was I used me like little brush pen things, just scribbling it really, but that was cool. And then the next one, he had the pole again, but this time he had it like behind his back. So you had a really nice curve of his I was going to say his arse, but his arse looked really cool, because what happened was his bum cheek was like blending in with his spine. You really saw the curviness of him, which surprised me, because I always thought in my head like males are more sort of blocky, but that's what I liked about this, was you saw the male has got like a nice curvy and blocky lines, which I thought is cool. And then the last one, he had the pole behind his back vertically. So he had one where he had the pole behind his back horizontally, and then another one vertically. And like I said, I just found these poses really fun. And then we moved into the next one, which is the long pose. So for this one, he was sitting on a little stool, and he had his legs sort of, they were doing quite interesting shapes. And he was actually, I had his back, so I couldn't see his face or nothing. Now, I'll talk about that later, but I think I already might have mentioned that. It was amazing how you could capture his expressions and in the back of his head somehow. I don't know how that's possible, but so what I did was, before I got into the main drawing, what I did was I got my brush pen and did a quick little sketch, because what I found is, if you do that quick little sketch, you sort of think, I can see the sort of, because sometimes in the old days when I used to go straight into the drawing, and I'd end up messing up the proportions, like it wouldn't fit on the page or something. So what I did was I played around with a brush pen just to get a feel for the pose and stuff. That was cool. And then I went into the main one. So what I did was I used me mechanical pencils, and the thing that I liked about this was the shadow. So on the floor was a very strong shadow, and I found it quite fascinating, because I thought to myself, that shadow is almost like an actual like entity. I don't know but it was weird. It was. So I found myself actually really intrigued by the shadow, which I've not noticed that before. So again, in the old art class, I think it's to do with the angles, and also in the old one we were sat quite a long way back. So now you're much closer, so you can see, like, you can sort of see things that you couldn't see before. So the thing I loved about this model was he had a really beautiful sort of like grace to him, I suppose. Now he had hairy legs and arms, and because I've never actually, I've done life drawing with a couple blokes before, but they were normally wearing clothes. I remember once we did a life drawing. This bloke was wearing like a sort of medieval kit or something. That was cool, that one. But so I thought to myself, do I actually put his hairs in or not? But I enjoyed doing that. So what I did was, right at the end, I started putting some hairs in, which I liked that, because it gave his legs a sort of like a furriness. Now I actually over exaggerated it on his legs, just because I wanted to sort of emphasise that he was hairy. What do I think about the thing though? The thing I enjoyed the most was, what did I enjoy the most? I just enjoyed being back there, really. But in terms of the thing, I enjoyed the shadows. It was the shadows that I enjoyed the most, and also his hair. Yeah, he had a nice shape to his head. One of the other artists did a beautiful angle of it, like side on profile, and you could really see the beautiful shapes of his nose and stuff. It was cool. So that's it for that. So what have I got here then? I think that's what we. So I'll go into the conclusion now. So yeah, I put in my notes. I said others were scared too. You could feel that some of the other artists were a little bit apprehensive as well, and it was amazing how many of the other artists said they hadn't done any life drawing for a couple of years, and so everyone was saying, "Oh, I feel a little bit rusty." But what surprised me was, whilst I can admit I was a bit rusty, it just felt like I'd never been away, which is that's quite amazing, really. In my notes I've put, keeps you focused, going to art class, it's freeing, it's fun, it's rewarding, it's scary but exciting. Now I always say, if you're doing something which is scary and exciting, for me that's almost like a way of telling that you're on the right path. Yeah, because if you're doing something that's scary but exciting, I feel like it means you're putting yourself out your comfort zone, but you're excited because you want to do it. Whereas if you're just scared and there's no excitement, I feel like maybe that's you sort of maybe. For me, I feel like maybe you're jumping too far ahead or something. So that was cool. What else have I got to think about, really? Like I said, it was just fun to be back there, and it's amazing how I suppose it's like a domino. You know, once you stop going to art class, it's almost like an accountability. The fact that you're going to art class, you've committed to it, so you're doing it, and at some point it just becomes something you're doing. So once you stop that, it's amazing how everything else, because like what I've noticed is everything's sort of interconnected. So if you take the art class away, other things you're doing are connected to it, and so they slowly drop away, and then before you know it, you're not doing any drawing or nothing. So that's what happened to me as well, which is a shame. But we're back there, which is cool, and it's got me really excited to get back into drawing. So this art class, what they do is, they do 1 week is life drawing, then they do a portrait, then they do life drawing, and then they do like a tutor thing. So what that is somebody of the group, one of the people in the group can actually go up and sort of teach. So I remember one time about 5 years ago, one of the artists, she does like Chinese brush pen stuff, or brush painting. It was amazing though, and so she taught us how to do this like Japanese styling brush stuff, which was amazing. There was another one doing watercolours. So what I like about that one is, whilst you're not necessarily drawing or painting the things you want to be doing, so but what it is you might be drawing something that you might find it's a little bit boring, like a house or something. But the thing I like about it is you're forcing yourself to do things that you wouldn't normally try. And the amount of times that I've done one of those things and thought, I love this. So again, there's a nice sort of like playfulness to art class. That's what I think. And then the other thing I like is during the interval, because we have about a 15-minute break where you can have a drink and stuff, and everyone walks around the room and we're talking to each other, which is a little bit scary. But, well, again, what I've noticed is with artists, a lot of artists are sort of quite introverted. So I like that though, because I feel like you get a better connection. And what I do is I normally go like one-to-one connection. I've always been a lot better at one-to-one talking than group talking sort of thing. So that was nice. But what I do is I walk around. You can walk around the room looking at everyone's art, which is brilliant. Because again, it's amazing how we're all drawing the same thing, and yet everything's completely different. And some of them you do look at and you think, well, they've got beautiful strokes or something, but the proportions are off. There's other people who've got perfected the proportions, but their strokes are a bit off or something. And then there's other people who you can see are really good at lighting. So it's cool, it is, because I find that bit really inspiring as well. And then the other thing that's cool is the models walking around as well. So you can actually talk to the model and stuff, which is nice. But I do feel like that the interval went on a little bit too long, because for me, I found it a little bit, because what happens is when you go into the interval, I find it takes you out of it a bit. Now again, I know this is for the model, because the model needs a rest as well, but I find that it takes a little bit to get back into it. Not too much, but the thing that surprised me as well was the model got up and had a drink and stuff. When they come back, they got into exactly the same position. Because I always think to myself, because there are some models who, when they come back, they never can quite get into the same pose. So then all of a sudden your drawing's a little bit off. But the good thing is, that's one of the beautiful things about life drawing, especially with the lighting. The lighting is constantly changing. So what's happening is, it's like you're sort of but as you're doing life drawing, you're constantly having to adapt what you're doing with the lighting and stuff. So it's challenging, but it's quite exciting. So I think that's it, really. My favourite thing about this drawing that I did was his foot. I know it's a bit weird. I didn't put any details into his feet, like his toe. I didn't do his toes or nothing, but I just found his foot to be a beautiful shape. It was really curvy. Now the other thing is, I've noticed this a lot when I'm looking at characters and stuff in the character design quarterly magazines. I love the shape of feet. There's something about it. It's it's very sort of flowy. I like that. And like I said, what I enjoyed about this model was the sort of the combination of angles and curves. I found it quite cool. I messed up the proportions. I definitely messed up the proportions, and I sort of had to keep playing around with his head, because it's amazing how the head is a lot bigger than you think it is. But yet it always looked a bit wrong until I started doing the shading and it started making a bit of sense. Yeah, so I think that's it, really. So like I said, my favourite thing was the shadows. I was fascinated by the shadows on this one. So I'm really looking forward to going back to art class next week. I can't wait. I feel like, for me, I think I would say, because the other thing is, you're not getting judged there at all. Because even me, if I look at someone's work and I can see the proportions ain't quite right or something, firstly I know that it's the same for me. So I'm not judging, I'm just analysing. Because what happens as well is you sometimes you see the same thing happening with everyone. Like, for instance, for me, what I messed up was I got the it was more like the shoulder, the back, like the shoulder and the back. That line isn't right on my drawing. Now I noticed a lot of artists, everyone else was sort of doing the same thing. So you start noticing that the things you're struggling with, you can see that other artists are struggling with it as well, which is quite interesting. But the thing I notice is, that's the thing, when you're looking at other artists' work, you're getting inspired, but you're learning as well, which is brilliant. So for me, this is brilliant. And the other thing I would say is, yeah, even if you was really rubbish, I would say still go to art class, because it doesn't matter. And the thing is, well, it's just brilliant. I can't see any negatives to it. And was going to say, let's say you was really rubbish. It doesn't matter. But everyone's there to help everyone, that's the thing. And if you need any help or something, all you got to do is ask someone. Like, how do you do this or something? So, boing! So I definitely recommend it, and I'm disappointed with myself really that I I didn't go back to art class for ages. But you know, that's the way it goes, I suppose. So what I've got here, all that's left is this week's inspirational quote, and I'll put links and everything in the show notes at sophiedawson.com. I hope you enjoyed this one, and like I said, you can see it as a video as well if you want. I don't know whether I'll do any more of these, but I think it'd be quite interesting to maybe do a video each month or something, just looking at all me stuff from art class, because they're not works of art, but it's still quite nice to talk about things. So this week's inspirational quote actually goes to Mike Battley, who is the guy who runs the art class. Now this was another one of those sort of like synchronicity type things. What happened was, I was a little bit nervous, and I'd got there and I was sitting down. I was still a little bit nervous, and Mike said, enjoy yourself. That's what he said. He said it to everyone, but you know when somebody says something and it's as if they're talking to you. And what happened in that moment, I swear, in that moment, it's as if all of the anxiety disappeared. Because I thought, yeah, you know, you're putting too much pressure on yourself here, and you're here to enjoy yourself. So that was it, and for me that was like, it was one of those moments where it just made me, it's amazing as well how one little thing can, like, imagine that, he probably doesn't realise how powerful those words were. Yeah, but that's the beauty of it really, isn't it? You're saying things, you can change people's lives and stuff. So this week's inspirational quote, enjoy yourself, Mike Battley. Enjoyed that. Yeah, that's good that. Thank you.